Home, the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Move for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Canada, the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo Wan from Toronto, Ontario.
I'm Danie Froby, and I'm from New West, BC, and together we are your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. Theo, you're not going to be in Toronto for that much longer, I heard. A little rumor.
Oh, you're going to announce it right now. I mean, I haven't signed the actual papers, so we'll...
Okay, you don't need to say anything, but you might not be living in Toronto.
Yeah, we'll keep it under wraps for now where I'm headed, but, the paperwork's got to check out and stuff, but I might not be in T-Dot for much longer is all to say. Do love Toronto. We'll miss it.
Exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. I'll announce it, when it's official, when I got the gear. Let's just say that. Okay. You, on the other hand, you are firmly back in BC, I believe. But you were away this past weekend. We're going to talk about the results itself later in the news. But how was it playing in the Pro Champs? You're out in Raleigh, North Carolina. Come on, you flew there with the squad. Now you're back. How you feeling? You tired?
Yeah. I just had a 5-hour nap. So yeah, it was awesome. It was really humid, which was something I wasn't really anticipating. I was expecting heat. I was expecting it to be really, really hot out, but I wasn't expecting it to be that humid. I think that really kind of rattled some of us, but I think we did a good job of taking care of ourselves, making sure we're hydrating and all that stuff. So we did a good job. I think we will talk about the results again in the news section, but I think I personally had a couple breakthroughs, I guess. I felt pretty good with our O-line. I felt like we're really clicking. So it was a good time. And we had barbecue, and that was great as well.
Well, you had barbecue.
You
had some karaoke too, though. I saw that.
Oh, yes. Well, we did one song. We did the T Swift song. We had all of us girlies up there. It was pretty fun. So yeah, the team vibes are good. Excited to go to sectionals this next weekend, and then 1 week break, and then regionals right away. So it's busy. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, that's actually crazy to me that Pro Champs happens, and then for the teams that are Pro Champs, they gotta go play sectionals the week after. I mean, the competition is a little bit different than Pro Champs, but still, having to commit another weekend for a lot of these teams, right? So,
and Pro Champs, every game is hard. Every game is really hard. It's the best teams, so everyone's putting their bodies on the line. Everybody's scratched up and bleeding from the turf and stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to recover. But that's it for me. Is there any other news from you other than the news that I accidentally almost leaked about your traveling and your work?
Yeah, no fake news here. I think we're good to head to the actual news because we got some stories to share, some dates announced, things like that. So let's hit the news.
We now have breaking news.
Welcome to the news section. First up, I'm pleased to announce that the U24 tryout dates have been announced finally. So sorry for the delay. There's lots of things that kind of go into picking these weekends, where there's so many other competing events. We need to be able to host it outside. Us coaches all need to be available. So the East tryout is October 8 and 9 in Ottawa. And the West tryout is November 12th and 13th in Vancouver, BC. The application is, I think, ready to launch. It's just waiting for final approval. So look out for that application coming out. Fill it out. I believe, I'm not necessarily sure whether everybody will get to go to the tryout. That's kind of up in the air at this moment. I can't say one way or the other whether that is what we're moving forward with, just because if hundreds of people apply, it's pretty hard to assess that many people. So fill out the application to the best of your ability. Don't hold back. Give us everything you got.
Yo, that's spicy. I didn't know that. That's spicy. So yeah,
I feel like that's how it usually is for U24.
Well, yeah, there's a resume and there's a reference. I've had to fill out a reference here or two. So yeah, make sure you get your references. And this is also a PSA to the people trying out. Just be a good teammate always, because you never know who's going to be a reference for you, and you never know who the coaches know as well. So even if they're not listed as a reference, if you played on that team, they might, I don't know if they're allowed to do this, but they might just be, hey, so what about this person? Like, what do you think? And you never know. So just always make a good impression no matter what team you're playing on is what we're saying. No prospect camp, correct? There's no prospect camp this time around?
Correct.
It's just tryouts?
Yeah, the timeline didn't allow for it. So just tryouts. I know the tryouts are kind of like far apart. So the East one happens and then quite a long time later, the West one happens. But c'est la vie with USAU series and CUUCs is kind of all we could do. So.
I mean, seeing as some of the main demographic or most of the main demographic is going to be CUC participants, it kind of makes sense to not do it on that day. So it was a little different for World Games, of course, but where there were some people who were trying out and playing at both. So yeah, and then coaches. I know we're not going to say who the coaches are, but that's going to come out before the tryouts or after, or you're not sure? Like who the assistant coaches are, or...
That's also work in progress. I cannot speak to that at this moment. Yes, that's all I can say.
Okay, I'm not gonna do like a blink twice if it's this person's situation, so don't worry. Moving on here, UCC. By the way, hopefully some of you had a chance to. I don't know if this was public, Danny, but we were both on I don't want to say an episode, a segment, a session at UCC talking about media, proliferation of media and ultimate. So that was really cool with the Charlie Eisenhood as well from Multiworld. So
last year.
That was last year. I don't know if we're going to be invited this year. This is maybe our PSA. Hey, Ultimate Canada, bring us back. We learned a lot from the last year, so we could give you some more info. I don't know. It's November 18th to 20th. It's got a little in person in Ottawa if you want to go to the nation's capital, and it's online. That's kind of cool. So I want to go to the party. You told me about the parties and did not go last year, so
they're epic. So unfortunately, Ultimate Canada did not consult with me before picking the dates for UCC. I'm getting married that weekend.
Oh, so you will not be at UCC.
I will not be there. I will be having my own party. It's going to be wild. So I will not be there. But if you've never attended UCC, it's awesome. They have two different streams, one more for admin, one there's some stuff for some coaches and stuff like that. So it's a great event. They get great speakers. They're really mindful about the people that they're choosing. They usually stick to a particular theme every year. So if you can't make it in person, definitely check it out online. It's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if Danny wasn't getting married, she'd be there. So, or
I'd be there,
or in some way, shape, or form. So there you go. Now some more dates being announced. We hinted at that earlier. So it looks like one of the regional tournaments has changed the date that Ultimate Canada said, but for the most part, all these provincial events happening October 1st, second weekend. Registration is live, so get registering, get those teams up and ready to go for CUC, because that's a big event here in October. We're going to try to give you this. I don't want to like overhype it. So we're going to try to give the same polls and get people excited, like the rankings, and stay tuned for subscriber only, where I'm going to share some early favorites that I think are going to be killing it there at the tournament. So stay tuned for that. But dates are announced for that. So sign up right now.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting event. I got to know a lot more about it last year, so I'm excited to continue to cover it more in depth again this year. So many kids that I've coached over the years are now over East, so I have much more investment on those teams. So super excited. Moving on to Pro Champs, the tournament that happened in North Carolina this past weekend over Labor Day. We had 2 Canadian teams in attendance, and Sixers and Traffic. Sixers started off really strong pool play. They were 3-1, and Traffic was the inverse of that with 1-3. So Sixers ended up beating Schwa 15-7, then Black Widows, which is kind of like an Asian all-star team, which was really cool. And so they weren't necessarily all from the States. I think they wanted to go to the US Open originally, but that event didn't happen on the women's division. So they got an invite to this tournament, which shout out to shout out to USAU for allowing them to enter this tournament, because it was really awesome to play them. And if you have some extra cash lying around, you should go check out the Black Widows Ultimate Instagram and donate to their team, because they have a lot of players from all over the world that don't really have access to these kinds of events. So definitely get up on that. So then Sixers ended up losing to Phoenix by 2. Phoenix is an incredibly strong team. And so we were really excited to kind of see how that game would go. Then they ended up beating Brute Squad 15-9, pretty commanding. They beat Bent 15-10. And then they lost to the eventual champions in Molly Brown in semis 9-15. Their final game, they ended up losing on Universe. But one thing I want to say about this game, they lost 11-12 on Universe. They were down 2-7.
Oh, that's some insider info right there. I like that.
So epic comeback for them. Really cool to see. I think that even at the elite level, no lead is comfortable. And we're going to be kind of talking about this a little bit when we have Strike on later in the episode. There are games that you could be ahead by a lot and still lose. So keep grinding, keep pushing. So in terms of how Traffic did, we had a first round bye, which was really nice to be able to sleep in. But then we ended up playing Nemesis, which was a must win game for us. We faced off against Nemesis twice last year at Nats and beat them both times. And so we kind of expected to win this game, and we didn't. We started really flat. Our warm-up felt flat. We weren't like working with the humidity at all. Nemesis already had a game under their belts, and I can confidently say that every game we just got better. And so it was a bit rough. We ended up losing 10-12, and vibes were not great. We ended up playing against Scandal. It was 7-8 at half, or 6-8 at half, or we broke out at half, so 7-8 at one point, and then we ended up losing 15-8. So kind of a bit of a second half collapse. So feeling pretty bad at that moment. And then our final game of the day, we played against Bent from New York, and they have some awesome pickups. They have a couple Colombian players, and it was a really fun game to play, and we ended up winning 15-13. So the next morning, we had to play against Molly Brown, and we went down 4 straight breaks potentially, or 4 points straight rather, and then ended up finishing 15-7, losing to them eventually. But having some moments of brilliance. I apologize for the motorcycle.
Yeah, we like the atmosphere of New West. New West DC, let's go.
I live in a city, so. And then we were facing against the Black Widows. I think it was 7-8 at half, and we ended up winning 15-8. So a similar thing to that Scandal did to us. We finished really strong, which meant we were going to face Brute Squad in our pseudo quarterfinals. And we ended up winning that game on Universe. We didn't know it was Universe. And so when we caught the final goal, our coach comes over and he's like, 3 cheers for Brute Squad. And then people on our team just start crying. It was really cool. So I know that no Traffic team has ever beat Brute Squad. And I know it's not the Brute Squad of years past. Like there are some different players and stuff like that, but it was still pretty cool for the squad. And then the next morning we were going to face off against our regional rivals in Schwa. So Schwa game was good. Lots of good plays on both sides, and we ended up winning that game 14-12. So after being 1-3 in pool play and being 4th seeded in our pool after that, finishing 5th, we were like, that's the best we could have finished after day 1. So we feel really good about how we kind of finished the tournament.
But you get the insider info, folks. I didn't even know about that Sixers thing, 7-2. So you're getting all the info there from the Danny Proby. So now we're moving into this weekend. We got sectionals coming up. You got some teams that are assembling for this tournament from the schedules that we can parse out. So a team that is, I think, some Forever Young Fable players, some Vancouver mixed players are going in. I think they're the last seed, so good luck to you. Surf is going on the open side, so Victoria Surf, we know you beat Blackfish at regionals. Can you make some noise here at US sectionals or sectionals in Washington? And then Hucklebears and Drift going to women's sectionals. Let's go. That's you get the reps in. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah,
it's going to be a big tournament. Normally, like sectionals, there's maybe a few teams. You play some games, but I think we're going to have like a full 2-day tournament. Traffic gets to play against Hucklebears on the first day. So it'll be fun to see some of those Victoria players that I got to play with when I was younger, and then some of the current college kids. So it should be a good vibe.
Yeah, we also got in the, I believe it's the Northwest Plains, somewhere in the North Central. You're going to hear about this later, but there is a squad of General Strike players or affiliated players going. And then moving out east, there's only some schedules up, so unfortunately I can't tell you. I know Mephisto's going, and Iris are going. I can't tell you the others if there's other teams going because their schedules aren't up yet. But Zen and Union are going out of in the upstate New York for mixed, and then there's a team out of Toronto, Durham, a couple players from GT, I think Boat's in there, Hound. They're all kind of making a team and trying to make a run. I don't think there's a lot of bids to be had, so it'll be tough. But there's sectionals. I expect some Montreal teams to be going. I'm hoping like a Manic goes and Venus, because Venus, you made it all the way to the finals of Boston Invite. And like Manic, you did well at a tournament. So want to see what they can do here.
Yeah, and now that Pro Champs is done, like that actually is like the end of the regular season. So as we were talking about, sectionals is happening, and then regionals is happening after that, and then it's nationals. So the bids have been pseudo announced. Like I think it's pretty finalized, I believe. So we have all the information about bids. So for bids to nationals in San Diego for the women's, we have 2 bids for the Northeast. And teams that are kind of vying for those bids be Iris, Sixers, Brute, and Bent. So expect that regional tournament to be intense. In the Northwest, we have 3 bids, which is really lucky. We have Traffic, Schwa, Underground, and Riot. So Schwa and Traffic did well enough this weekend to solidify 2 bids, and then Riot had already solidified their bid before. So feeling pretty good about that. On the open side, we have in the Northeast division, we have Goat, Dig, Pony, Mephisto, Phoenix. I don't even know if Phoenix is playing, but there's only 2 bids there.
Playing. Yeah, well, they got to qualify. You got to qualify, but for regionals,
sure.
I expect that to happen.
Right.
So 2 bids. It's going to be nasty out there in the Northeast. That's all I'm saying. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be hard.
And the Northwest. Northwest, also 2 bids. Furious, Sockeye, Emerald City, and Rhino. So Furious, when they went to this little tournament in San Francisco the other weekend, I guess they had a couple upsets that caused them to drop out of a bid contention. They were literally the last team to not get a bid. Like they're the cutoff team. And then Goat's right after them. Yeah. Well, so it's like all the teams that get bids, and then it's like Furious doesn't get one, Goat doesn't get one. Like right there on the doorstep. So close. Would have been nice to have 3 bids, let me just say, because I know like Furious lost to Emerald City the last tournament. I think that they lost to Rhino. They lose to Sockeye. So I think it's an uphill battle for them. But as we talk about later, Furious loves a grind. They love being the underdog. They love coming from behind and winning.
It's true. And
then... Yeah.
Oh, Danny, what were you going to say?
I was going to say in the North Central, there's only 1 bid, and that's where General Strike is going to be competing. So,
yeah, Sub-Zero's in there. There's going to be some teams. I was just going to say that Goat also lost out on that bid by losing the way they did to Omen there. Talked about last week. So that win actually was really important for Omen, because now I believe Great Lakes has 2 bids in the open, which is like not normal. It was when they had High Five in that region, but now it's just really Machine and everyone else. So, it's tough. But, we'll let you move on to mixed here before I cut you off again.
It is tough out there. So for mixed in the Northeast, we have Exist, Slow, Sprocket, and Union, and 2 bids. So that's also going to be a grind. It's going to be nasty. The Northwest, I think this is particularly interesting, this one. We have Mixtape, BFG, Moondog, and Red Flag. So the 3 prior teams all earning bids, and Red Flag, having not competed in the States in any kind of sanctioned tournaments, is looking to steal one from one of them. So that'll be very exciting to see kind of what happens there, because that is a very strong region for mixed.
Yeah, I've been on the Ulti-World Discord, and someone said, no Canadian teams earning bids or something. I know Traffic did, and Sixers, but like he said something about that's the way God intended or something, and it got some likes on the emojis. So it's a tale as old as time where Canadian teams do not participate in the U.S. series, and they come in, to quote Liam Grant, like a thief in the night, and they steal a bid from another region. Goat's done that many times, and other teams are hoping to do that this time around and really upset some American teams here.
Spicy take. Maybe it's not that spicy. I think you should have to play at least 5 games, or you have to go to at least one sanctioned tournament in order to compete in the postseason. I think it's weird that you don't have to.
How is it a postseason if you don't play in the regular season?
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
That's just, there's no post. You're not posting. I agree. I agree with me and with you.
Yeah, like there's random college teams that will come up. I get that. They use it like kind of as a beginning tournament or whatever. But if it's postseason, it should be like you should play in the regular season. So
yeah, agreed.
We're agreeing there. That's going to wrap up the news here this week. Stay tuned for our main event. We're going to talk with General Strike, a couple players from there, and talk about their win, talk about the program, maybe talk some Spirit too. So stay tuned for all that stuff, and we'll see you right after the break.
This episode has been brought to you by VC Ultimate. VC Ultimate has been producing custom uniforms and performance apparel right here in Canada since 1998. VC's sublimated gear is made from 100% recycled FlexLight fabric, and design services and product samples are both free. Get your VC jersey today.
Hey, c'est Phil Dorval, directeur technique pour Ultimate Québec, et vous écoutez le Huckin Podcast, votre guide pour l'Ultimate canadien d'un océan à l'autre.
All right, folks, we're in the main event. Thanks for joining us. We got 2 members of General Strike in the house. Going to learn a lot about this program today, so very excited about that. Got Matt Ladyman and Kyle Parker. Going to get you to introduce yourself in terms of how long you've been playing for Strike or played for Strike and what your role was on the team. So, Kyle, as the veteran, we'll start with you.
Thanks for that. I was around when the team started in 1999. And I ended up playing all the way through till 2018, which was a World's year for us. So I spent 20 years with the team from the very beginning through some tough years and then on to the bigger and better years, obviously.
Sweet. And did you ever captain at all or have any other roles on the team?
Yeah, I was a captain from maybe kind of my first year, but more so officially, I'd say by my 3rd year with the team, I was a captain and responsible for truly running the team. We did have a coach for a couple of years back in the early years, but most of the time it was me and a couple others keeping the program going. And I stayed on as a captain through till 2018. A lot of people by that point were calling me more of a player coach than a player, I would say.
Appreciate that. And Matt, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been playing since 2015. Been a captain since 2017, and then mainly been myself and their captains kind of running practices, organizing tournaments since then. And then finally this year we brought in a couple of coaches, so the workload was a little lighter.
Yeah, so Matt, we're going to start with you. We're going to take the audience back here to 2021, where General Strike, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. You finished 8th at UCI, so not the finish that I don't think anyone expected. Us predictors did not expect that. We're just going to say that. So what did you learn or what did you learn from that season, and what was kind of the focus heading into 2022?
Well, I think the big issue was the purple jerseys. I think that was what held us back a lot. But I think coming out of COVID, just like with our weather we have here, it was tough to really get on the field early, and I think a lot of us came into that season pretty out of shape. And we almost kind of we had the same kind of routine every year through our practices, and we kind of always expected to be top 4, kind of no matter how we did. And then all of a sudden, that was kind of a bit of a wake-up call for us for sure. But I think out of that wake-up call made us all really kind of get down to it and really focus up. And I think that brought us into this year a lot better.
All right, Matt, we're going to stay with you for a little bit. So I'd like for you to talk us through the tournament. this tournament, of this year. So you went undefeated in pool play and power pools. What was the messaging that you had with your team on, say, Friday night as you're kind of getting ready for bracket play?
I think the big thing for us really going into this tournament was our youth. Like, we had a very, very young D-line group of guys that just the effort was there every point, all game, every game. We actually switched Noah Hoffman over to D-line going into those bigger games, and he really gave us that kind of big presence in the deep space that really helped us out there defensively. And I think for O-line, like, as long as we possessed the disc, we were fine. Like, traditionally, Strike has always been a very Huck-happy team, and I think kudos to our coaches for that, for helping us reel those things in. But I think the more we just possessed, we knew we could get open with our cuts and our handler resets, so it was just making the game a little more simple for us.
I really like Huck-happy teams. I think I make that very public, like shooter shooting, but I also understand that possession is pretty important on O-line. So I understand that. So could you talk a little bit about like the general vibe of the team going in? Like, do you think the players in your team were feeling confident, or how was kind of that going into it?
Yeah, like, I think a lot of our vets kind of knew we had something special going on. Like, we knew we had a really strong group of guys, especially since it was our young players keeping us in a lot of games. So I think the general feel from the team was a lot of excitement. Generally, our team stayed very healthy throughout the weekend, so we were very happy with that. And just it was very much so a business trip for us, though. Like, we made sure that people were staying focused. Like, we weren't going out drinking or whatever that kind of stuff is, like past teams have done. But we really just made sure we were there to do a job we can enjoy ourselves after, but made sure we took care of that business part first.
All I'm going to say as we continue this interview is that you made two comments that has made Kyle smile a lot. So you're kind of just like throwing a little like shade to the OGs over there, you know? So do appreciate that.
Yeah, I was feeling that shade.
I can see it. I can see it in your reaction, Kyle.
At least twice.
I can see it. But Matt, once again, we got to, first of all, congratulate you and your team again for the victory. Champions. Defeating a fellow Prairie team there, Alberta Rumble. So what was the key to success for your team in the final there? You've seen this team before, obviously, but you didn't get a chance to play them in the tournament beforehand. So what was your focus? Were you able to see them at all, like during the game or during the tournament, I should say?
We weren't able to watch them at all, really, but we were our big focus was taking away their transition hucks. We had heard from other teams and some friends in their teams. I think their big play was get that D and then just look to boost it. They got a lot of good throwers, a lot of good receivers. So we were making sure when we turned over the disc, we were covering that deep space as fast as possible. Fortunately for us, like, Hawk Calder wasn't able to go that game, but he was usually that big threat for that kind of part of the game. And then Bedard, it was just trying to slow him down. Never really going to fully take him out of the game. It was just trying to limit what he could do out there and just try to frustrate him a bit. And then, yeah, like, once again for O-line, it was just let's possess. Then obviously in the finals, we got a little Huck-happy, but luckily for us, Devin Cohen was an absolute monster in the air. So it was just, let's have a good time. Let's play a little relaxed, but let's just take care of the Frisbee.
Awesome. All right, we're going to give you a bit of a break and we're going to switch over to Kyle now. So Kyle, can you describe what was going on for you when you found out that moment that Strike had won, as being somebody who founded the team and was integral to the team's success and building and growth over the years? Like, what did that mean to you? What did you do? Where were you? What were you wearing? Tell us everything.
A lot of the players that have moved on to other things or Masters play. We still have a group chat called General Strike 2018. That's kind of the last. A lot of those guys, a lot of the old guard retired after that year. Hence the big turnover in the young group that's now on the field. And when we found out that they were advancing to the finals, we were ecstatic about that. And a bunch of us were planning to get together to watch the game. And then the game got delayed. and then the game got delayed. And then the game got delayed, and life got in the way for some of these older people. Not me, thankfully. I was able to head over to, actually, Cam Burden is a longtime strike player, former captain, one of the greatest players to ever play with General Strike. And he was the guy that was going to be hosting at his condo, and still got a chance to go over there. A couple other guys who have kind of been around the team for years got to go there as well. But I think everyone from that group, from the 2018 group, was still watching wherever they were. And with every play, every point, we had our group chat just firing the whole time. And when that final point was scored, it was just absolute elation for everybody in that group chat. Matt says the team wasn't partying during the tournament. Well, we were ready to make up for that as soon as that final point was scored. We had the guys sending around their shotguns, sending around their drinks, cheersing each other. Because there's still 10 guys that were on that 2018 team or associated with that 2018 chat at least that are in there. And we were so proud of the team and so proud and so happy for those guys. Matthew, of course, being one of them. We were all so very excited for the group.
Thank you for sharing.
Kyle, going back in the memory vault here, why don't you share about like how the team was founded? And you said this, not us. I'm just going to say, you said that you had some lean years and then things got better. So talk us through some of the lean years, because often people see a team's success and they only know the more recent stuff. They don't see the building towards it.
Yeah. So as I said, the team goes back to 99, and that is truly old school Frisbee. So when we went to Ottawa Nationals in 99 as our first year, and I think finished like 11th, I'm pretty sure we had about 11 or 12 guys on that team. And that was kind of for the first 2 or 3 years, that's how many guys we had. And then we grew in quantity, but we didn't grow in quality for like years after that. As I was kind of going through the chronology, the history of the team, like we truly had tough years, kind of in the mid 2000s where we missed a nationals or two, and we just didn't have enough players to field a consistent team, and we'd stick to closer tournaments, which for us is like tournaments in Minnesota. But really when things started to pick up a little bit was around 2008, so about 10 years into the life of the team. We got in 2007 an influx of 3 very good junior players. We actually might touch on this a little bit later, but we actually stole 3 players from MoFo in 2007, guys that could have played MoFo in their final year and likely won a national championship. Instead, they decided to play with us, and that was Mark Lloyd, who I'm sure everyone's familiar with, Sean Brooks, who should also be a familiar name, and Andrew Vogt, a.k.a. Kid, at least the Winnipeg Kid, not the Calgary Kid, who actually moved to the States to go to college shortly thereafter. But those 3 played with us in 2007. All of a sudden, we were kind of making some noise. We had a decent game against Furious, and that year, 2008, we go to Calgary Nationals. We beat Nomads in pool play, who ends up winning the tournament. 2009 Winnipeg, we beat Mephisto in pool play, who I was trying to remember, I think Mephisto won 09 Winnipeg. So all of a sudden, we're starting to make some noise, starting to get some influx of talent into the program, as I say, toward the late 2000s. And then when you leap forward, you get to 2012. And you're nodding and grinning, and I'm dreading the score 13-8, because ever since that finals game in Victoria 2012, a lot of people know the story. I mean, it's 10 years ago now, but a lot of people still know that story. up 13-8 in the final against Furious, our first chance to win a national championship, and an absolute collapse. There's no other way to phrase it. It's a collapse that impacted us, that we truly dwelled on, probably unhealthily. And really, it wasn't until a full year later, 2013 Nationals in Vancouver, when we finally pull ourselves together mentally, play a game against Richie and friends in what ended up being a Worlds qualifier game. The winner of that game made the semi. That was a quarterfinal game that year. We played I want to say 20-plus minute universe point, pulled that one out in front of basically the whole tournament because every other game was done play. And that was an awesome moment. We learned we qualified for nationals. And that was really the moment that brought us into more so. 2012 was an unfortunate event. 2013, 2014 really got the team going. We went to Worlds 2014, did awesome. We did far better than anyone expected us to do, including ourselves. We finished 10th there. And then all of a sudden, it's actually from that, we first of all start training like we mean it. And that was a first for this program going into 2014 Worlds. And then second of all, it's Mathew's group of mofo guys, mofo boys. All of them stayed in Winnipeg and all of them stayed with the program. And so starting in 2015, we had that massive, massive influx of talent. And really, I think from there, from the 2015 year, is when this team really solidified as like a true program that guys, at least in Winnipeg, really, really want to play for. And then we suffered another couple losses in finals. 2016, Edmonton lost to Grand Trunk. That was a game we obviously, I say obviously, it's harsh maybe. We think we should have won that game. And we weren't really happy with the outcome. Props to Grand Trunk and especially to Connor for basically playing the perfect game. Honestly, I can't play much better than that. And then a 2017 loss in the final wasn't nearly as devastating, especially because we qualified for Worlds again. But when you add up 3 finals losses at the national championship and 0 victories, it does take its toll. My group and the guys that left after 2018 definitely feel like we left something on the table, left something unfinished business, if you will. And as I said, ecstatic that Mathew and those guys this year managed to finally clean up our mess and make it happen. So props to them.
I mean, I know you're already kind of talking about the juniors a lot in that answer, which is perfect, because the next question, we kind of want to lean into that a little bit more, because I feel like Winnipeg has a really good reputation for fostering that kind of bridge from juniors into those top adult club teams. And I don't think a lot of other cities kind of do it as well as you do with your 3 teams. So I'm just curious, Kyle, if you have any kind of insight to anything that Winnipeg does that other communities could kind of lean into to try to get that pipeline moving a little bit more efficiently like you all have.
Yeah, so we really didn't have it in those first 10 years of the strike program, not until, as I say, the 07, which was the Mark Lloyd, Sean Brooks, Andrew Vogt year. And even after that, we didn't have a steady influx of players from the MoFo program. What really did it was when the coaches of the MoFo program went from being the Dean Wrights, in other words, an old generation teacher type teaching group or coaching group, and it moved to being not just former, but more so current strike players, Willem Conrad, and of course, Daniel Plurd, who's at the helm this year, along with Stephen Crew, for MoFo. But once we had actual players from our team involved in the coaching group or leadership group, the head coach and assistant coach spots, that's what really solidified us getting players from that team to, well, first of all, stick around Winnipeg, but second of all, continue playing with our program. So big thank yous to Willem Conrad, Daniel Plord, for keeping that going, for making those younger players interested in our team and us interested more so in their team. And once we had one of our players coaching that team, we're not just at the finals, we're at other games. We're basically at all their pool play games, all their qualifying games to cheer them on. And then the relationships kind of develop from there between the players on strike and the players on MoFo.
Yeah, and for those who weren't there, you didn't get to see like MoFo players getting so psyched and excited because they were there. They had just got in, I guess. I heard there's a long bus ride involved, like 26 hours or something for that team, or I don't know, like it's very long. So they got in, they were cheering for the squad, they were stoked. So yeah, it's good to see that connection here. Matt, we're gonna give Kyle a break now. So Matt, it's to you, and we're gonna have to talk about a question that some people are gonna have. Is all I'm gonna say. Some people are gonna have a question about this. We talked about on the podcast last week. General Strike unfortunately comes in last in spirit, and we had some discussions about that. I know, Matt, you had a chance to listen to that episode. So instead of just hearing Danie and I's thoughts, audience, you get to hear Matt's thoughts. So Matt's going to speak for himself. I don't know if you just want to speak for yourself, maybe not just the whole team, because everyone has some different opinions. But Matt, I'll just let you share kind of your perspective on the tournament from the Spirit perspective.
Yeah, it's really too bad that this is kind of overshadowing the victory a little bit, having this kind of asterisk on it with the Spirit scores. I think a big part of it does come down to our leadership. Like, I think throughout our practices and training all year, we developed a level of physicality in practices that we deemed acceptable, and the kind of team with each other were okay with. And that is not a generally acceptable level of physicality, especially with some of the questionable bids we had throughout the tournament. Fortunately for us in practice, we never really suffered any injuries, so maybe that was never highlighted for us there. But I think just as a group, we were encouraging each other to lay outs. We were encouraging each other to put your body on the line and be a little physical. And that kind of ramps each other up a little bit for that stuff. So I think just going forward, we got to do a better job of selectively bidding, as well as making sure we avoid the body contact as much as possible. So I think the one that was highlighted was in the finals there, where you were talking about it, where you can kind of understand why the bid happened. And there was a play on the disc, cut a little shallower than he thought was going to happen, and then obviously the unfortunate injury. But yeah, I think that comes down to leadership next year, setting the tone early of what's an acceptable bid, what's not, and just making sure we set that tone early on and just follow that throughout the year. It's tough. The hindsight's always 20/20 on these things. So going back, we wish we could have dealt with this earlier, so it wasn't an issue at the tournament. But we will do better next year and going forward for sure. And then, yeah, I think for the most part, emotionally, we were pretty good. I think the real main issue for us was the physicality. I think a lot of us, we had enjoyable games with other teams, a lot of chatting, a lot of good back and forth, talking with other teams. And so I think we got to make sure we kind of dial back the body contact, and then hopefully the rest will kind of fix itself. But yeah, it starts with leadership, coaching, and just even more veteran players on the team kind of setting that tone early on.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. I know it's the win was epic. I think we've all kind of been along with Strike's journey over the last decades and seeing the kind of heartbreaking losses and stuff. And so I think that the whole community, I mean, I can't speak for the whole community, but I'm going to anyway. The whole community is really proud of how hard that program has worked to be able to kind of come forward with a win like that. And I want to make sure that is something that people remember. And I really appreciate you saying that, acknowledging that it was an issue for your team, and then saying that you're going to be working on it in the future. I think that is all I think that we can do. We're all human. We all make mistakes. As long as we're learning from them, that's the most important part. Now, Kyle, I want to invite you in to speak on this exact topic. If you have any kind of insights, I know you weren't on the field or at the event itself, but.
Yeah, no, obviously I wasn't, and I actually didn't see any other General Strike games from this tournament other than the final. So I can't really comment on anything specific. What I can say generally is, honestly, I don't want to get myself or the team in trouble or get a worse rep. We've always had some struggles with spirit scores, spirit rating, and we actually won the Spirit Championship on going all the way again back to 2008. And our spirit was terrible that year. And it's almost like teams gave us good scores sarcastically. It's always been, so I can say that the program has always played tournaments in the States. We haven't traveled to many Western Canada tournaments or many Eastern Canada tournaments. It's always South. Be it the US Fall Series or other tournaments in Minneapolis. I think this year the team went to Denver. And I do think that there's a bit of a different personality and a different way of play and manner of play in going to US tournaments exclusively. So I don't know if that's contributed to it. It's a strange contrast from Fusion, who has had success as a program, won national championships, and also seems to always be high on the spirit scale. But that's never been the case for Strike. And I don't want to comment on any specific player or anything, but I do think that again, the fact that we don't play a lot of tournaments inside Canada, we don't see the Eastern Canadian style of play regularly. I think that does play a factor in terms of how the team plays. I think we all hope that it improves. There is a history, as I say, and a track record for this program having spirit issues. I think that is plain to see. But I do think that this group can do better and will do better, especially if I'll say the head coach that they have in place remains in place. I think that he'll have a positive impact on the group. And I think that the younger players will learn that body control as well. And I don't think I have all that much more to say on that point. I didn't see enough of the tournament to really weigh in specifically. But thank you.
Yeah, Kyle, thanks for answering that. Well, you and Matt both. I know it's a tough conversation to have, and we want to continue to celebrate the victory. And I said this already last week, but let's give teams and people opportunities to learn and grow. I remember I referenced this story last week, but still getting asked questions on a broadcast 10 years later about the Furious incident 10 years ago. It's things have changed in that program, for example. So let's celebrate those things instead of just hammering on something that happened a long time ago when people have changed and programs have grown. So I want the same for you, for your program as well. So just want people to see that in 2023. So that actually segues well into our last question, which is your plans for the rest of this year, and then 2023. We'll see you in BC, right? Matt, does that sound good or what?
Oh yeah, we'll definitely be trying to defend the title next year. As far as the rest of this year goes, we are sending a bit of a skeleton squad to Fall Series. Once again, kind of life gets in the way for a lot of people, between university starting and that being their focus, or just other life events. So that'll be kind of more of a fun team bonding, go have a great time, play well, have fun. Go catch the Vikings-Packers game in Minneapolis when you're there. After that, we're going to try to look at Hawk. We're going to see if that's a possibility, because that'd be a really fun tournament to go to. Once again, it'll kind of come down to numbers, and once again, with us being a young team, finances coming into play for those kind of tournaments. So we'll see who we can get out and what we can do with that. And then besides that, yeah, we'll be back at CUC next year. And we have a very exciting young core of players. We got quite a few guys wanting to come back to the team as well. So tryouts will be a lot of fun. We're hoping we can get a second team going again now that we seem like we have our numbers back. So the program's in a very good spot right now, and we're really excited for where it's going.
I was just going to say, it's such a skeleton squad for fall series that they actually even asked me if I would come back and play.
And are you going to go?
Can't make it. Wish I could. But I can't.
Dust off the cleats, get back out there. Theo, do you have any final questions before we say goodbye to our champions?
I know they're both NFL guys, so who's the best player in the NFL right now? That's what I want to know.
That's tough. Does it have to be on the offensive side of the ball?
No, it doesn't. Well, yeah, that's true. That's a good question. No, it doesn't. You can pick who you think is the best player in the league right now. It could be defense. I think I know who you might be picking, but I'll let you say it.
Yeah, I think TJ Watt might be the best player in the league. Truly.
Okay.
I would guess outside quarterbacks, he's probably the best player in the league.
Yeah, this is a pretty
Matthew,
tough question for us. Kyle's a Falcons fan. I'm a Seahawks fan. There's not much going out of those teams right now, but I don't know. I think I gotta say Josh Allen right now is just the most fun to watch out there.
As a Bills fan, I'll back the pick. Danie, do you know? I know you're a big NFL fan, right, Danie? So you got any players that you're highlighting before we end this interview, or what?
Absolutely not. But first of all, this just throws me back because last night we were playing a game with Traffic where you have to say something in a category, and one of the categories that somebody had was an NFL quarterback, and everyone was like, no one could come up with a single quarterback. I mean, I could, but it was very funny. So no, I don't watch football. So, but I could name a quarterback at least. So
who?
I have that. Aaron Rodgers. Are you proud of me?
That's actually pretty good. I thought you were going to say Tom Brady, so that's actually pretty good.
Nah, just the second most basic quarterback. Okay. Thank you both so much for joining us and kind of sharing everything. I think it was really interesting for me to hear a little bit more about the history, especially from you, Kyle, because I saw that game in Victoria and I've seen everything pretty much since then, but I didn't know kind of the history before that. So that was really insightful. And for Matthew, it's really, you seem like a really integral piece of this team, and the fact that you've been able to kind of build it and kind of be a draw for new young players coming in it's been very inspiring to see, and really, really excited to see you both in 2023 defend your title in BC. I'll be cheering you on. Always been a Strike fan. And
Danie just wants a jersey. She wants that purple jersey.
I do. The porta potty jerseys from last year. Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having us.
Hi, this is Carla DiFilippo, coach of the Toronto Sixers and co-founder of the Toronto Elites Junior Program. And you're listening to the Huckin A podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
All right, so we just heard from General Strike Danie and got a lot of good thoughts in there, and I just love the way they also handled the Spirit stuff from both sides, kind of the veteran side of things and the current captain side. So what are your kind of initial thoughts, feelings, anything from that great main event that we just had?
Yeah, I think I mentioned, as I mentioned in the main event, I enjoyed hearing more of the history. It's cool. I think that we should do that with more teams, because I think that these teams have a lot of epic things that have happened that it would be nice to capture them. And as people that can do that, I think we should continue to do that. So if you're listening to this and you have a suggestion of a team you'd like for us to do a bit of an interview with or a cover for, let us know. Slide into our DMs on Instagram and stuff. But in terms of the Spirit part, I think it's easy to be defensive. And I didn't get any of that energy from either of them. They were really acknowledging it, not from just this year, but from the past too. And I really appreciated that, because that's that's a hard thing to do. And I thought that like kind of vulnerability to kind of take accountability for it, it's important. And I do believe that they are going to work to kind of right that ship. And the fact that they do only play in the States and it's their only exposure to Canadian Ultimate, like that all kind of checks out. It does feel a bit more physical when I play in the States than when I play at CUCs. So I do understand them trying to like, I mean, Furious was like that too. They were like angry monkey. They would literally like chirp at each other. They would like trash talk. They would like push each other to kind of get themselves all hyped up. And every team has their own identity, and maybe they just weren't able to switch it off as much as they would have wanted to in retrospect. But I appreciated how they handled that. How about you?
I mean, yeah, I agree to that's the same point. The history part is sick. Already commended them for the spirit, which is, another, obviously we knew that was going to be an interesting topic. And just hearing about, I knew about the Mark Lloyd playing for General Strike as a junior. I did not know there was 2 others that followed with him. So I think that's allowed now still, right? Where you have to sign a waiver to get like a kid who's eligible for juniors to play. But to get 3 of them, and like Kyle said, Mofo could have won a championship that year, but instead they were playing with Strike. That was interesting as well. It kind of starts the dominoes of players wanting to play up for them. So I think that's really cool. And kind of back to your point about the learning, I think that's also for other teams too. Like everyone's responsible for like safe play. I just saw a tweet from Keith Rayner there about him seeing a lot of dangerous bids at Pro Champs, and then someone chiming in and saying something about, well, Canadian Champs, there was also some, questionable bids. I think both honestly in the senior and junior divisions, like there was some, people got to work on the body control. I'm not out there slinging the body around, but you got to control it somehow and keep everyone safe. So that's sort of the takeaway as well, just kind of a PSA for everyone, not just one team,
Yeah. Always stuff to work on. Like as humans, we can always iterate and improve and adapt and all those good things. So I really appreciate you, Theo, for all the work you've been doing on, you hate it when I do this, but all the work you've been doing
every time. You don't have to do it every time. It's fine.
But okay, so if you're not following us on Instagram, you got to check out all of these kind of like
that. Road to 2K. I like that.
We're Road to 2K. You got to check out our Instagram because I've been doing a bunch of, and by we, I mean Theo, has been doing a bunch of highlights about where these athletes from these top junior teams are going to university. And it's really cool to kind of see kind of how people disperse and to know that these college programs are going to get infused with some sick young talent. So head over to our Instagram. We are Huckin, and you can email us as well, huckin@ultiworld.com. And we're pretty receptive, I think, on our socials.
Yeah, we're trying to be. Sometimes a message slips through the cracks. Sometimes, not all the time. But we've been getting a lot more tags from teams. They're tagging us in the comments. I know Brock University been tagging us a bunch. Other schools as well. So keep that up, and we'll give a little preview of. We don't normally do this. We used to. We stopped, and now we're gonna do it this time. We're gonna talk mixed at CUC. I know that was, there were some Instagram posts popping up, some stats, Danie, So I think we're going to have to talk about that next week, right?
Yeah, we'd be super excited to talk about kind of how mixed teams use all their players on the field. It's going to be an interesting episode, so definitely tune into that. And yeah, just thanks for being here. If you want to head over to the subscriber only section, Theo is going to be kind of making his preseason picks for college. So he's been kind of getting the DL, the information about where these top juniors are going. So he's kind of got a good pulse on what's going on in the scene. So if you don't subscribe to Ultiworld, do it, and we'll see you there.